Wouldn't it be a shame to wake up in 2035 wishing that you would have taken some kind of a risk on yourself now? Risk like that weighs really heavy on your shoulders. Don't be that person. Take a chance, take a risk. I've done that on this episode. It's far longer than the others that I've made. But hey, sometimes a bit of length comes in handy. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Neil, I'm a furniture maker, and in this episode I'm going to show you how I built this workbench, got it to this stage, cut the plywood and assembled it. Let's do it. In the last video I put out, I showed how I made a jig for accurately cutting plywood. It's as good as using a CNC machine. The pieces come out absolutely identical. I made that for building this workbench and also a future project that's coming up, a designer slat wall inside my house. If you haven't checked out those videos about the jig and the circular saw, make sure you do check them out. Some really simple and useful tips. The jig won't take you very long to build at all, but well worth having if you've got repeat cuts coming up. I have some really exciting stuff in the works behind the scenes. I've even just partnered with Felder on some of the new kit that's coming soon, but more on that in future episodes. Hey guys, so I'm here on a very wet October evening editing a video, and it just crossed my mind whilst I was playing the guitar. Would you guys like to hear me play the guitar over the woodworking, or is it not the right mix? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm a bit of an amateur on the guitar, by the way, but I'm learning. I try and do 20 minutes practice each day and get a little bit better. So there was a lot of repeat cuts in this project, and I wanted to make sure I was as accurate as possible. A bench is really important. Obviously, everything else that you subsequently build is on top of that bench, so it's important that it's built to a high standard and as good as you possibly can do. Anyway, for me, it's good practice, furniture making and working to high standards. So I'm using a knife to mark, and I'm trying my hardest to get within 0.5 millimeter accuracy. I find any more than that and things start going out of square. So I've accidentally cut these 36 millimeters too long, luckily too long. But when stuff like this happens, why does it feel like a bigger deal than it actually is? It only took about 10-15 minutes, so not a big deal, but slightly annoying. I now have all the parts for the workbench and the drawers that are out of camera shot, so I'm ready to start assembly. Note that I've marked on the wood with a pencil where to apply glue. I like to use a spacer block for work like this. I've got lots of the same pieces to make, so a measurement you can get confused, you can misread the rule, so it does help, just speeds things up having a block. To stop the pieces moving around whilst I clamp, I'm using brads. These are headless brads, so they'll barely be visible, but it is just a workbench at the end of the day, so it doesn't really matter. Here I'm building the top and bottom rails of the workbench. So there are two frames, and then they'll be connected by the central boxes that will hold the drawers and the cupboards. The more conventional way is using timber or lumber, as my American friends would say, and then making mortises and tenons, whereas this method with plywood you have less waste and you're adding material versus removing it. This was the first piece that I glued up, and I used the jig as a straight edge to clamp to, but I'm thinking, and I don't like the way the clamps are pulling the top tighter than at the bottom, and it's pulling away, not leaving equal glue pressure. So I decided to change, took the clamps off and clamped on the top surface. It was flat, just checking that it's free of dust and dirt, and quickly flipped it over to make sure that the piece is dry, flat and true. It works pretty well. I'm happy with how they turned out, so it's now just a matter of repeating this process and making all the other parts. Obviously it's kind of tricky making a workbench when you don't already have a workbench, so I used this Borer centipede workstation that you can see with a sheet of plywood and OSB on top, and it works pretty well. Quite happy with what I managed to do. On a side note, what do you think of these purple LED lights I installed? I put them in my house and I've been really happy with them. So when I built the workshop, I thought for what they cost, like £20, I thought, why not? It's kind of a cool feature, especially now I'm doing YouTube. But is it vibe or violation? Should you not have purple LEDs in a workshop? What do you think? Second faux pas of the build so far, the central middle rails, I accidentally glued up the laminations the wrong way around. I should have put the small piece on the back, so they're not going to work. The tenon is on one of the outside edges where it should be in the middle. It crossed my mind that the glue joint, it may break, so I had a go at doing this. What do you think? Will I get it off cleanly? Modern glues, they're so strong that it's unlikely these will come off cleanly. I'm one of those people that I kick myself when I make a mistake, and I don't like wasting material, so I wanted to see if this would be possible. It's just amazing how strong modern adhesives are. As you can see, the veneers of the plywood are what broke, and these look like a mess. There's no way that I can actually use them because they'll be seen on the front of the workbench. But it's good to see just how strong the glue is. So I had some leftover material, again luckily, and quickly made some replacements for those, put those in the clamps, and after that I'll be ready for my first dry assembly and then clamp it with glue. And this is what they should have looked like. Assembly. It was a turning point in the build. After a couple of days of cutting plywood, I felt like I was making progress and you could start to see the shape of the workbench coming together. So it was a good moment. I like these milestone moments in a build where you get a bit of momentum and energy from the project. On that note, I'm actually on a personal journey of self-development, and success, it's not always about knowing what to do, it's about doing stuff when you don't know what to do. Keep chipping away at your goals every day, not letting the small things chip away at you, like drinking and eating what you know is bad for you, being around the wrong people, you miss a workout, before you know it, you look in the mirror and you don't recognise that person. workbench is a really cool project to build because, like I said earlier, everything that you subsequently build is on top of that workbench. So it's a part of you in a way, and every craftsperson needs a foundation, a place where ideas take shape and hands turn vision into reality. This bench that I'm building, it's not just a surface to work on, it's where the next chapter begins. The start, it's never perfect, but it's progress, and that's what counts. One cut, one clamp, one day at a time. Motivation, it sometimes fades, but discipline, that's what builds something that lasts. When you show up day after day, through the noise, through the setbacks, that's when real craftsmanship begins. Because the best creations, they don't start with talent, they start with commitment. I'm super excited about this workbench, and I'm currently thinking and planning the projects that I've got coming up over the next year. And you know when you're doing the right thing in life, because I often wake up in the middle of the night with an idea and like my heart pumping in my chest with excitement, thinking about what I'm going to make next. And when you feel that way about something, you definitely know that you're on the right track. With the frame glued up and dried, I checked it that it was square and flat and cleaned off any glue residue. Then it was time to check the panels fitted, and they do. So at this point I'm now ready to build the carcasses of the boxes that join the two frames together. The boxes that will hold the cupboards and the drawers, they're made up of 18mm Far Eastern plywood, a little bit cheaper than the hardwood poplar. I'm using glue and screw to attach them together. For the frames, I used a poplar birch plywood alternative, and I'm very happy with it. The current cost of birch plywood in the UK, this was half the cost. It worked out well, and there was no voids that I found within the laminations like there was in the Far Eastern plywood. But yeah, very happy with it. I'm glad that I tried this. It came from Lithuania and it seems very good quality. You've probably seen the stack of it in my workshop. That's going to be for the slat wall inside the house. So it looks really good. It's class AA. There's no knots, and yeah, it looks very acceptable. I wanted to show you here that I nearly always pilot hole, countersink, and then put the screw in to avoid breakout. It's now a case of building the second one, and this strip of plywood you can see sticking up, that's what the middle of the worktop will sit on. A nice sunny day down here in Dorset, so I chose to take the frames outside and plane down the protrusions of the tenons on the end, and then gave everything a sand. I had some leftover matte water-based varnish from ply lining my van, so I decided to use it up and give everything one coat. The next step was to install the dividing partition for the two drawer areas. I did this after the varnish as it was easier to varnish that outside. As you can see, I used a drawer bottom and some spacers to make sure it was centered. I also used a couple of brads either side just to hold it in place while I pilot hole and screw. Here I am marking out holes for bench dogs on the side of the workbench. I'm going to have them on the worktop and in the side, handy for holding sheets of material for planing or cutting biscuits, whatever. At the moment I don't have a pillar drill, but I do have this mobile drill press, so I'm going to try and cut the holes with this, taking my time. It seems pretty well made, so I'm hoping this will do the job. Checking that the Forstner bit is true. It looks pretty DIY, so I did a test. It worked okay. I put some blue masking tape next to where I wanted each hole drilled. Can you imagine how annoying it would be at this stage to drill a hole in the wrong place? I will say that if I had a pillar drill, I would have drilled these holes before I assembled the frames. It's just that I don't have one, that it wasn't necessary. I was pretty happy how the holes turned out. There was only this one that had a little bit of breakout, but it's on the reverse side, so it won't be seen, which is lucky. Look at all this space for activities. Now time for assembly of the parts. I put the boxes on their side and then the face frame on top. I marked out where I wanted the screw holes and then went around with a pilot hole countersink and screwed the face frame to the boxes. I used 50mm screws for this. I suppose you could use glue as well as screws, but I feel like the screws will be enough for this, and there's also a chance that one day I will want to remove this from the workshop, so screws without glue will allow that. I know what you're probably thinking, and no, I didn't skip a workout. It's just that this thing really is starting to weigh quite a lot. As you can see, I was pretty relieved that everything fit together and that my measurements were correct. There's always that annoying small chance that you've overlooked something and got it wrong, but luckily that didn't happen. So here I've flipped the workbench upside down, and I need to add on these plywood extensions to allow the caster feet to attach onto the bottom of the workbench. So I'm going to glue and brad to hold in position and then drill some holes and screw those up. To attach the caster wheels, I am using a 60mm hex timber screw. hope you enjoyed that episode, guys, of getting the workbench together and up on her feet. In the next episode, I'm going to use this 4-metre section of beech worktop. We'll fit the vikes, make the drawers, put the doors on the cupboards and finish it off and start making some real furniture making projects. Thanks again so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you on the next one.